So with the January window deadline fast approaching, will Arsenal actually sign anyone? Joining us now is talkSPORT reporter Ben Jacobs. Welcome to Inside Gooners, Ben.
Talia, gents, how are you?
Yeah, we're good, thank you. We're good. How are you?
Busy, unlike Arsenal, unfortunately, at the moment.
All right, Ben, calm down.
Thank you very much.
Took you 5 seconds.
Thank you very much. Very nicely put.
I'm never getting an invite back on, and I haven't even answered a question yet.
Maybe not. So let's go into this. So Ben, there've been a number of fresh reports linking Arsenal with Benjamin Sesko. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, the good news for Arsenal is that they've got a number of concrete summer targets, and there is a logic of escalating the pursuit of some of them for January. It's just really whether they're feasible. I think if Arsenal are empty-handed, it's not necessarily down to the recruitment push. It's just the fact that these targets are difficult to get in a seller's market. So with Benjamin Sesko, some contact has been made with Leipzig to understand whether anything is possible. There's no release clause in his new contract, and the player's very keen on his own development as well to make sure that he doesn't rush a move. And even though Leipzig are out of the Champions League, they're pushing in the Cup and also to qualify again for the Champions League next season. And this is why at the moment Leipzig's position is very firm. So we have to wait and see whether Arsenal try their luck with an offer. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. And they'll obviously want to protect that relationship that they have with Leipzig if they're to revisit this in the summer. Because my understanding, and here's the better news for Arsenal, is that last summer when the project was pitched from Arsenal, Chelsea and Manchester United, Sesko basically picked Arsenal and then made a secondary choice of is it now for Arsenal or stay at Leipzig? And obviously, unfortunately, from Arsenal's perspective, he decided to stay. So Arsenal do feel they're in pole position for Benjamin Sesko. It's just going to either take a crazy offer or be near impossible in January because Leipzig's position is very firm.
Well, we've still got time to be busy, as a few more weeks, I think, of January. But let's move on then. So the future of Matheus Cunha appears to also be up in the air with bids from Nottingham Forest. Would you expect Arsenal to come in if Wolves decide to sell?
Yeah, I think Wolves' position is very clear that they don't want to sell, but the door is ajar for a crazy offer. We've heard some reports out there that say the number might be 55 or 60 million. My understanding is it will take 80 million in January for Wolves to consider an offer, although that is including add-ons as well. And the Cunha position is quite complicated because he's verbally agreed terms on a long-term contract at Wolves. As far as the salary and the length is concerned, likely, I'm told, 5 years. But there is this sticking point over either one release clause or two, a lower number should Wolves go down and a higher number if they stay up. And at the moment, because Wolves haven't ceded on those release clause numbers, Cunha's not going to sign. We know Victor Pereira has questioned his attitude, and Cunha could agitate for a move. But it reminds me, taking another Arsenal example, of Moises Caicedo in the January window where Arsenal were the front runners, they bid, Caicedo issued a public statement, the move didn't come off. And even if the player pushes, we might see a similar situation where Wolves stick to their not for sale position. But it is one to watch between now and the end of the window, just because as long as Cunha doesn't sign that new long-term deal, Arsenal still might be tempted to put an offer in.
Ben, I always take signs from my higher power, and you're dressed as a Wolves player from 1970. So I think that's a brilliant sign that Cunha be on his way. What about Brian Mbeumo and Vissa at Brentford? Was there any sort of rumblings on that side?
It's Hufflepuff, by the way, rather than Wolves, so I have a magical quality to me, hopefully being able to predict the January market. Nothing on Brian Mbeumo. There's a very firm position of not for sale. We know that Yoane Wissa is more a Nottingham Forest interest at the moment. I think from Arsenal's point of view, we still should keep an eye on Evan Ferguson. I know it's more West Ham that have made outreach regarding a possible loan. All suitors at the moment are waiting to work out if Brighton are going to sanction an exit. The challenge for Arsenal is that they'd either have to ditch a loan. They can't do that for Raheem Sterling. There's no recall option. With Neto, it's a question mark because there is an ability to bring him back to Bournemouth, but usually in January, these kind of exit clauses to break a loan expire in the middle of the month. So time may have passed there as well. And that means that if Arsenal want to move for Evan Ferguson, first of all, they'll have to feel like he's going to be fit to contribute in the second half of the season. And secondly, they'd obviously need to buy him outright because they've filled their 2 Premier League loans at the moment. And even though it won't be 80, 85 million, it's still probably a 45 million outlay. And it remains to be seen if Arsenal think that's good business. I'd also throw in Igor Jesus as well at Botafogo, who's more of an Edu legacy target, somebody that Arsenal looked at last year, and he is definitely available in January because the calendars align and it's already the end of the Brazilian season. So Botafogo would rather sell him now rather than mid-season in the summer, and that would be an outlay of 25 to 30 million euros. So keep an eye on that one because Arsenal have made some contact there, and he's the kind of striker they could get in January and still have budget to move for some of the bigger names come summer.
Well, thank you, Ben, for joining us. I'd say thank you for everything, but I almost want to say thank you for nothing right now.
It's not ever the journalist's fault, in fairness. Like, if we tell you reliably it's quiet and Arsenal haven't signed anybody, then at least we're not giving you false hope. But hopefully Arsenal can surprise us in the final few days of the window.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. And just to mention, I'm a Gryffindor, so... Right, thank you very much. Look, let's move on then. Clive, I just want to mention, you were shaking your head when we were talking about Cunha. Why?
No, Cunha's he's fine. I mean, just look at it. I just add up in my head. Right? So what's happened? We had 6 forwards. We've lost Saka and we've lost Jesus. Jesus we lost for a year. I'm not going to see him until next January. In any sort of shape. And so that's the player we really need to replace. How do we replace him? Do we replace him with somebody like him in Cunha? Or do we say, actually, as a club, we don't have an out-and-out number 9 at the moment. We have a group of false 9s, people that can play there, people that can roll into that space. We don't have someone that puts on his shin pads and says, I'm a 9 and I'm scoring today. You know, and so I think we need that profile in our club. If Cunha's the only one we can get right now, because these deals are really challenging, unless someone agitates or there's a release clause you know about you can activate, like say for a wide man like Nico Williams, for example, it's challenging for us. So Cunha, I'm waiting to see. I like him as a player, but that's not the outright number 9 solution. It's just another forward.